Hi, friends. God bless. Greetings. I wanted to do a video for my fellow pedestrians. So, I never learned how to drive. I grew up in New York City and lived in San Francisco, went to college in Massachusetts in a college town. So, there was public transportation that was fairly reasonable. And I lived in Portland. So there's a lot of places where people do not have to have a car. You're not shamed for not having a car. But once you start moving to locations, when I was in Montana, here in South Dakota, and even when I was in Norfolk, Virginia, it was like a 3-hour trip to try to get to the beach. I never made it. I had to get off the bus to use the bathroom midway through, 2 hours into the trip. So I never even was able to make it from Norfolk to Virginia Beach. So that was definitely one crummy thing about living there. Because I see all the hype about beaches, but if you don't have a car, you can't get there. And I'm not a Uber user, and it was trying to get a cafe. I just wanted to be able to take public transit. Anyway, that makes me when you've lived in major cities, you're used to a large homeless population and aggressive panhandling and just people being out of it. And it's interesting because the past few years, um, you know, actually maybe the past 10 years, when Google, LinkedIn, and I believe it was Twitter moved into San Francisco, all this media was like, yeah, there's feces in the streets and syringes on the sidewalks and blah blah blah. That's always been happening because cities will not provide toilets, and there are needle exchanges that occur, and um, but that's what happens when there's rampant drug use, homelessness, and inadequate care. And the thing is, these situations are designed. It's engineered. Drug addiction's engineered. Homelessness is engineered. Human trafficking is engineered. So people want to bash these mentally ill, drug addicted people for the choices they make, but there's a lot of circumstances and situations that profit off of breaking people and having this situation. And I recommend looking up Allison McDowell. She's doing a great expose about how this is being is like the profit model for globalists. But I digress. What I want to get back to is, if you're a pedestrian and you're moving somewhere without a vehicle, you'd like to um, relocate. I'd like to share something that I don't see any of the other travel videos addressing. For those of us that prefer to walk, I like fresh air. I like walking. I like being a biped. I like hearing bird song. I like the human scale of life when you are walking to the store on your own power. I just get a sense of satisfaction from that. And so I'm very strange in our world because people are like, why don't you drive? Why don't you have a car? Why don't you get an Uber? And I just like to walk. So if there's, a handful of other people who actually like that, I want to say, if you are relocating, look at the homeless statistics, because something that I have noticed is nobody's walking. Like when I was living in Ghent in Norfolk, Virginia, there was very rarely a pedestrian out, and it was nice weather. I mean, like, it was quite pleasant, but the streets were empty. It was a car culture. People weren't even on public transportation, and this was before the CV hype. So I think everybody is just on their computers, on their phones, and having everything delivered, and people are just much more satisfied with this online existence or something. I don't know. But because in when I was living in Montana, and this was before CV, like, same thing. Not many pedestrians, unless you were in, where the pizza place was, or, you know, just where more of the shops were, but still it wasn't a whole lot of activity, but there was some. And here in South Dakota, I mean, it's like a wasteland. It's like a ghost land. There's like, nobody often, like once you're out of downtown proper, like the tourist, the couple blocks where the tourists, I mean, literally 2 blocks, you're the only person you're going to see on a sidewalk. And so it's really stressful. If you're a pedestrian and you're the only person for like 2 miles, um, like, I don't know, for me, I kind of prefer if there's more people around. And yes, there's tons of traffic, everybody's driving. So, what I notice now is panhandlers, and here it's the First Nations, the Native people, they corner you. So, when the cars are going, they like zombies, like change, give me money. And so when you're trying to, you're waiting for the light to change, or you're unlocking or locking your bike, people start coming up to you. And what's even more annoying is they will, like, I do not display a lot of wealth. I mean, do you see a lot of conspicuous consumption? I don't have the latest hairstyle, or the latest glasses, or the latest shoes, or the latest bike, or the latest coat. But they will, so I don't even think they even want money, because I don't have it. And they're not asking the well-heeled couple that just walked by. So it seems like it's trying to get a piece of my peace of mind. Um, so, so I'm looking at this homelessness statistics chart, and so, like, the worst apparently per capita is DC. Next is New York, and I lived in New York. I grew up in New York, so yeah, there was definitely aggressive panhandling there. California, I agree. Oregon, yeah, there it wasn't as bad, but it was there. But here in South Dakota, for instance, you have people, Native people, who are saying, "You owe me reparations." And like the first day I was here, this Native guy was like, "Yeah, we own all this land." So regardless of the white people, the black people, the Asians, that thought they owned the land and that were paying the property taxes, apparently the Native people think that they own all of your houses here in South Dakota. I'd be interested to hear what those homeowners think. So, yeah, it's just this weird psyop, I guess you could say. Like, some Marxists, I guess, are telling the Native people that they own everything, and then the Native people, when they could get some stupid white person to listen, they'll tell the white person, "No, well, we own your stuff." So, anyways, I mean, like, so I don't mind. I have to contend. I've always had to contend with homeless people, really aggressive people trying to get you to petition to sign away your rights. So always these canvassers, aggressive canvassers. So I've always had to deal with that, more, 1,000 times more than somebody who's always been in a car. But this kind of like, your skin is white, so you're bad. You have white skin, so you owe me money. Like, I just can't take it. Like, I just don't want to be here. And like the locals, here are like, "Yeah, that's too bad," but I'm in my car. I'm all like insulated, because I live out in wherever, and well, that's your problem. Like, that's just how I find is about Rapid City here in South Dakota is. So it's just like, I just can't. It's. I mean, so do I have to go buy a car and move out of town in order to be comfortable here? So, anyways, I just would rather not be here. I lived in Alaska, and I gotta say, the homeless people when I was in Ketchikan, I mean, I knew them. I knew some, and they were pretty low key. I don't. Let's see. So Montana is on that list, and I did not find aggressive panhandlers. It was actually drivers there, and even bicyclists. Like, bicyclists in Portland, Oregon were also pretty bad, but it was weird because there would be this tiny bridge. Like, it was basically, like, just enough for your body to go by with just a little bit of space. Like, if you were, like, 300, 400 pounds, you would have taken up that part, that much of the sidewalk. But there would be people riding their bikes fast, and just expecting you to make way for them on this tiny bridge in Missoula, Montana. So, there's just something wrong, something weird about the people when they get to Missoula, and I think they were tourists maybe, um, because it's just weird behavior. So South Dakota is on this list, 20th on this list. So I find South Dakota has been the worst for the homeless people, and particularly because it's Native people saying your skin is white, you owe me money. It's just been the worst experience of my life, honestly. Lived in Pennsylvania for a summer in Philadelphia, and that was the people there were very angry. Like you would be walking and somebody would bump into you from behind and yell at you. They were just looking for a fight. So that was pretty bad. I mean, yeah, that probably the second worst place I lived. New Jersey is a couple places behind, and I have spent some time in Jersey City and I think Newark. And I didn't encounter, I don't think, any homeless people there. So I really liked that location. And I don't know much about. So I was looking up South Carolina, this one place, Greenville, and it seems like there's some homeless, a lot of poverty there. I spent a little time in Wisconsin, and I didn't encounter homeless people there. So, yeah. So I just wanted to say, folks, if you are planning to be a pedestrian in your next place to live, I would look up the homeless situation, because that just makes just going outside so stressful when because that's what's happened to me here in Rapid. I'm like, oh, is it a nice day? Oh, there's probably going to be 5 people that are going to corner me, at the crosswalk. And nobody does anything. Folks just think it's a joke or think it's just normal or acceptable, and it's not. It's interference in my existence, and probably and my constitutional rights for a sense of like peace and security. So, if you have any other suggestions, if you're a pedestrian and you relocate, what other things do you think are important to look at? Like, I would also look at strange weather. Like here in Rapid, also there can be like 60-mile-an-hour winds, and that is a really tough thing to navigate. It's a lot of force. So if you're, trying to get to the grocery store or whatever, and speaking of grocery stores, like here, they're like any of the bigger stores like Safeway or the stores called Family Fare. It's like 2 miles either way you have to go to get to a larger store. And yeah, there's the boutique health food store, which yay, there's at least that. But that's it's not a complete kind of store experience. And of course, everything's like 3 times, or it's much more expensive. Um, so those are things I would take into account about relocating as a pedestrian. Is how close are amenities? Is there any kind of weird weather? Like, is there a lot of radon, or is there a lot of uh, um, pesticide, water, pollution? And are there aggressive panhandlers that are just too threatening? Because the thing is, like, I'm fine if there's aggressive panhandlers and there's like 10 other people around. But when you're the only person getting targeted, it's rough. And they recognize you, and they just think they can wear you down, and it's really horrible. It's horrible. Like, Philadelphia was really stressful because people were really just like whacked out there in Philadelphia. Like, everybody was kind of weird there. And like, I remember trying to cross the street, and so traffic was going this way, or and and you know how bicyclists are on one side. Well, this bicyclist was coming from the other, on the other edge of the road. So, if I hadn't looked, I would have gotten hit by this bicyclist. And bicyclists don't care about pedestrians. Bicyclists, I don't know what's they have the same mentality that reckless drivers do. It's just like they're just a reckless driver on two wheels. And they're probably on two wheels because they lost their license because they're a reckless driver, but they're still maintaining that same behavior on a bicycle. So they're doing less damage, but they probably still they probably need to go to jail, because they're just dangerous. So yeah, bicyclists aren't saints, like, and I mean, and drivers, there's just something up with drivers. But I think there's just people are losing their minds. And because I lived in Philadelphia several years ago for a brief time, and people were just like so angry there. So I think there's just a lot of strain, financial stress, and people are taking it out on everybody. So those are my thoughts. So, but the thing is, we have a right, if we want to be a pedestrian, we have a right to live and be pedestrians, and to be able to walk around. That is a constitutional right. So I'm just trying to figure out where is a reasonable place, like that's not it seems like a lot of cities hate pedestrians. They just want to make it as impossible, as miserable as possible. Like, like Rapid City. So people are like, oh, but there's public transit. So this public transit, it's like every hour. It ends at 5. There's no bus stops, like other than the main transit area. There's no shelters. Now, this is South Dakota, where it can be 20 below. And because of the stupid social distancing and mask Nazi stuff, they have people like, so only like 6 people can get on the bus. So nobody uses it. I mean, very few people, a handful of people can use it. And the thing is, like, even the bus drivers don't even know where some of the bus stops are. So you have to know. So it's just an absolute miserable nightmare to take public transit here in Rapid. So yeah, that's another thing to keep in mind, is if you are thinking to depend on public transit, you might want to look into the amenities if you're relocating somewhere. So anyways, those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening. God bless.